All right, I think we can start. Welcome to another episode of my video series. My guest today is Dr. Arayeh Norouzi. She has a PhD in psychology with a focus on mindfulness. She's a certified life coach. She's a transformational life coach and a conscious parenting coach and a relationship coach too. So Araya and I have been friends for a while. I forgot to mention she's also a Reiki master. We've been friends for about 6 years, and we've been on a journey, somehow together on social media for a while. And I know she has done a lot of work on unconscious parenting. She has been doing loads of workshops and classes. She coaches private individuals, groups, corporate organizations, and I know you also do some coaching in schools or teaching in schools too. So she's an expert in the field. She has networked and collaborated with most of the global names that we hear on conscious parenting. So she's really an expert and she knows what she's saying. So that's why I invited her to share her insights and knowledge on conscious parenting. The topic that we're going to talk about today is how to connect deeply with our children. And Arayeh is going to share 3 tips that she has for us. I think it's part of her coaching program. So there's still more. There's a lot of modes or methods of doing it, which you can access if you wish to. So welcome, Arayeh. I'm glad to have you here today.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm honored to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Okay, I think we should just do a little background first. I'd like to do some background. How did you get into the space of conscious parenting?
Wow, that's a great question. So I was actually an engineer working in the corporate world until 6 years ago. So, and then I resigned, and for a reason, I got this calling that I have to pause, kind of ask myself if I want to do this until I die, kind of thing, or no. And the answer was kind of no. So I paused and I asked the universe really openly. I kind of became really open to receive, to figure out what am I good at? What is my life purpose? I literally interviewed 40 people, 20 to 40 people, and I asked them, the people who knew me, I'm like, okay, what do you think I'm good at? I was really curious to know. And then after a month, I kind of fell into this coaching company. I got their services. And then after some time, they proposed that I become one of their coaches and become certified by them. And I did. And then my coach introduced Dr. Shefali to me, who is the founder of Conscious Parenting. And the reason he did that because I have been struggling with sibling rivalry since my son was born, when my daughter was 2 years and 3 months. And I'm the only child. I had no clue what I was doing. I read 50 books. I was like all over the place, all conferences. And I had some genetic predisposition of getting angry and reactivity. That didn't help at all. So I was very desperate. And so that was one of my biggest triggers when I was talking to my coach. And that's why my coach introduced Dr. Shefali to me. And I just Googled her name. I found her TED Talk, watched it, cried, wept, and I fell in love with her. And I became her avid student since then. So what I do is really transformational coaching, but conscious parenting is a big part of it because it's my passion. My children are 13 and 10 right now, and it's an ongoing journey. That's why it's so close to my heart. But just to give out a secret, conscious parenting has nothing to do with parenting, really. It's like kind of separate from other kind of parenting, like positive discipline and all those things, because although I give some tips about kids, but probably 80%, 90% of conscious parenting is about the parent and how we can empower ourselves and become fulfilled and kind of peaceful adults, so we can allow our children to become their peaceful adults, so they become authentic rather than projecting our wants on them and kind of skew their path the way that I do believe that happened to every one of us. 7.6 billion people. We have 50% divorce rate. We have addiction. We have homicide, suicide, all these things, depression, addiction, all these things because of unconscious parenting. That's why I really do believe it all starts from 0 to 7 years old. And all the programming that we have has been established then. Now, as adults, we get lucky and we try to awaken ourselves and reprogram our brain from all that fear to somewhat a peaceful life. That's why it's so important, I think, to be as conscious as possible, because it's impossible to be conscious all the time, but at least have a formula, have a roadmap, how to parent consciously, so our children suffer less and they need therapy less when they grow. I'm sorry I'm so blunt, but it's a fact.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It needs to be blunt. That's really that's amazing. Yeah, because I mean, the people coming into contact with our message, might be thinking it's a that conscious parenting, has to do with the children and how to mold them or something. But it's good to make it clear that it's really about the parents. So
Exactly.
it's about fixing the parents, not fixing the child.
It's that I don't like the word fix, because when you say fix, it means someone is broken. Kind of become aware, really become conscious. For example, this doesn't mean I never yell, right? I actually just yelled about something, but I quickly get back. I apologize. I hug my son. I explain, and so it doesn't mean that we're always conscious and everything is happy and our children are happy all the time. No, it's about becoming more and more conscious of our innate feelings and accept our humanness. We get angry, anger, sadness, I don't know, envy, what else, fear. These are all healthy human feelings, and we have to honor them. We have to listen to their messages. Rumi says these feelings you have, listen to them. They're messengers. Really, we have to listen to them rather than just feeling guilty and suppressing them, and then along the path ask our children to always be happy, right? Because that's just not rational. If they're angry, if they're throwing a tantrum, let's just create a space for them to move through it rather than feeling guilty. Number one thing that I tell parents that they absolutely love is that, you know what, you're not responsible to make your children happy. They're like, no, I'm not. I'm like, no, you're not. The only thing you're responsible is to create that space for them to move through their feelings, and just don't feel that they're bad, that they're sad or they're mad, right? So, and if we allow that, the maximum duration of each feeling is maximum really 90 seconds. They move through it. Have you seen children? They cry, next minute they're done. That's the way that children actually, they live consciously, way more consciously and mindfully than we do, right? So yes, it's about not molding the children, but it's about awareness of our humanness and coming back to compassion, coming back to love, coming back to consciousness. It's all about that. It's not like we are always conscious, but we just have a place to come back and center.
Okay. Yeah, you said you were going to share 3 tips on how we can really connect with our children. So what's your first tip there?
Okay, so the first tip is kind of the most controversial tip, and that's release expectations. So when we have expectations, we usually, like people who do personal development, they may have heard this about other things, but people don't hear this about when it comes to children. We don't believe it. When it comes to children, we have to believe it even more. When we have a scenario in front of our hand, when we see our children, the expectation of having this fantasy child is what is driving our trigger, is what making our cup full, so we cannot really parent from the place of alignment and peace. right? So when I say release expectation, means what? Knowing when, I challenge your audience and yourself as well, next time when you get triggered, you become aware of your mind and see what is triggering you, that you don't want your child to having a tantrum right now. That thought that is very unconscious and we're not aware of it, that is actually instigating a feeling. So every thought creates a feeling, and feeling creates a behavior. I hope this is not, it seems that
No,
it's
it looks
kind
pretty,
of tricky,
yeah.
but thoughts, feeling, and behavior. So
Yeah.
we become aware of these thoughts, that, and just accept it. Have a mantra, say, this is my child. I'm not, literally bring this mantra, I'm not resisting this. I'm not resisting. So by saying that, we create a space between us and the stimulus of what's going on. So now we are this empty flow, we're aligned to what to know, what to do exactly in that moment. I want to bring a little parable I absolutely adore. There was this really selfish king that goes to a Zen master and he says, I want to be enlightened. And the king says, and the Zen master says, oh, really? So let's have some tea. So he starts pouring some tea in this teacup of his. And then he pours and he pours and he pours and he pours and it overflows and everywhere gets wet and his robe gets wet. And he's so mad. The king is so mad. He says, what are you doing? And he says, well, you're like this cup. You're so full that I cannot give anything to you. Go empty your cup and come back. This is literally us at all times. We have so much expectations, so much thoughts, so much stories, so much conditioning. It's like I always say, imagine the file cabinet. We are always opening these file cabinets from the past, and we're just matching things from our past experience and trying to kind of regurgitate whatever we did before. Well, it's not working. If something, something needs to change, it means something needs to change, right? Nothing changes if nothing changes. And who changes? Not the child, it's us. It's us who needs to create that space and release expectation. So part of the kind of a power that empowers us to release this expectation is to know that behavior is actually a symptom. So if a child does something, right, we should know that that's just the tip of the iceberg, the 5%. Underneath there is, am I loved? Am I worthy? Am I safe? Am I being heard? Can I do this? Do I matter? Do I have a choice? Do I belong? So literally know that the child, whatever he's doing, even if he's hitting the sibling, I don't know, spitting, all these bad things, misbehavior, everything, it's just a symptom. And the child is kind of frustrated about something. One need is not being met, one or more. And then we are responsible to fill them. And then just instead of punishing, which is usually what traditional parenting does, punishing or rewarding, we just go to the bottom. We don't want to manipulate the behavior. We want to go to underneath the symptom and see what's going on. So that could be part of kind of a foundation that helps us to release expectation. Because if I expect my child not to throw a tantrum, that's just, I always said, you can't expect a cat to bark. The child is throwing a tantrum. I'm not gonna, resist it. It means that he is incapable of self-regulating, right? And he needs help. So that's how we release expectation. The other thing is the brain development. The brain development is not fully complete until 25, 26, very, very late. So literally, we cannot expect these big kind of high function executive functioning from children when they're little. So this is so important to consider, so we can release the expectation and kind of bridge the gap, that disconnection that we might have with a child when he or she is not having a good time. And that's part of the kind of a foundation, which I'm going to go to this the second and third point. So the second point is actually fill up those psychological needs. What are those?
Sorry, the first, are you going to the second tip now?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I had
Question?
questions asked.
Yeah.
On the first tip there, because we're talking about practical steps.
Yeah.
Really like everyday things that happen. Like for me, I have a 1.5-year-old, and of course, her memories, her brain is not developed as such. So every morning she wakes up and repeats exactly the same things that she did yesterday. It doesn't even matter what you do the day before, she's not going to remember it. She's just going to come back and maybe it's storing somewhere. I don't know. But for now, she keeps repeating the exact same things. So if a parent, like for a parent, what do we need to do at that age between infants and maybe 3 years old or something, where they don't really understand instructions as such? Do we just let them do whatever they want to do, or are there any things that, like, I know we do, how will I put it? The first thing you said here is to release expectations. Yes. How do we go about that practically?
Yes, okay. So
In the
tell
heat
me,
of the moment.
what does she repeat? You said she repeats something. What does she repeat?
Yeah, let's say, okay, like she likes to climb on tables, she likes to go to everywhere and, open everything and open the bin and do all that and all that. And there's an amount of instructions that you can give, so she cannot learn not to do it.
Yes, of
Also,
course.
yeah. And when you take away some things from her, she throws a tantrum too, and can cry for a long time,
Yes.
like when she wants to make demands for something.
Yes.
Yeah, so which sometimes can trigger the parents in some situations. So for this age group, do we have any expectations of them at all?
I would say no.
Because I know things build up with
Yes.
time. Everything she's doing and every reaction that we take is registering somewhere in her subconscious, and it's a process. So I think it's good for parents to get it right from maybe not right, or at least try to do the right thing from the start.
Yes.
So that you
That
can
is a great question.
progress naturally. Yeah, up until when they are 20 or whenever.
Okay, that's a great question, and I envy you that you're getting to know these things so early. I wish I knew these things when my kids were this young. So it's very important you start the principles right now. So that is a very great question. So at this age, that's actually my second tip. So it's kind of a segue to my
Okay.
second tip. At this age, especially at all ages, but this age especially up until like toddler years, 4 or 5, the best way for kind of preventing them to do the things that we don't want them to do is distraction. So we are two things that parents need to do. First, create the environment, create the condition for them to succeed. You know what I mean? For example, when uh, parents come to me and say, my kid eats Cheetos for, I don't know, lunch, I say, well, don't buy Cheetos. Don't put it in your house. So that's where we come in. So we want to create a condition so we are minimizing our words, as you said, instructions. I would say like 10%, really. We should have 10% of the words that we utter. Literally, we have to just prevent ourselves from talking. What they love is attention. What they love is action. What they love is connection, not words. Because their brain is so underdeveloped that they don't even hear us. We think we have given this big, beautiful lecture, but they don't really, literally hear us. So just minimize words as much as you can. Sometimes I go on word fasting. I don't talk for 3 days because I see that my ego is getting the better of me. Not like a punishment. I call it silence retreat for myself. So it's not a silence treatment as a punishment, it's for myself. So I want to kind of tame my ego and just be kind and smile rather than just, really minimize the words. So I suggest 1 or 2 days of those to somehow tame the ego. So no words. We don't want to go for instructions. We want to create conditions. If she, I don't know, reaches the shelf that you don't want her to reach, I don't know, just move the stuff that you don't want her to touch. So the second thing for this age still is distraction. Again, so if you say no, always remember negative attention is better than no attention. So they feed off of our negative attention. When we say no, right? They like it. It's like, oh wow, my parents paying attention to me. Somehow they're getting that attention negatively. So we don't want that, because that's how the power struggle starts, right? If I ask you to push your right hand to your left hand, can you do it?
My right hand to my left hand.
Yes. Is push your right hand to your left. Yes, good. You're doing it wrong, because I didn't tell you to push back with your left hand. So this is the correct way.
Okay.
Right? So whenever we order, whenever we push someone, they want to push back. That's intrinsic. So we have to minimize ordering, minimize instructions, because they're striving for their autonomy. Autonomy is one of the basic psychological needs, which is a third point, one of the third points. But that's how, when we order, right, that autonomy bucket is like, I'm a person. Do I have a choice? To remember, one of them was, do I have a choice? My autonomy is being violated if I keep getting ordered at. So we want to create condition. We want to use distraction. So the second tip is use play and humor. And these are the things that parents generally don't use, because we're tired, we're stressed, we don't know, and we have grown, we are not a child anymore. You forget that the language of the child is play. That's what they nourish. That's what they feel good. That's why they feel they're accepted and loved. That's the language. Connection, play, time, right? No, it's not just we think that, oh, okay, do your homework, did your homework, or provide food, or I don't know, bathing them and all these things is love. That's our way of providing love, but that's not the language that he or she receives love. The language that he or she receives love is through play. So we want to use play and humor. So I would say just minimize saying no's, just distract and go grab her or tag her, say tag, and just run to the living room. Something like that. Use play and humor. So little by little, she doesn't want to do the things that are dangerous. Plus, you have a good foundation. You've created a condition for her, so she will succeed rather than fail.
Yeah.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah, it does. Beautiful.
Okay, good.
Beautifully, yeah. Because I use play too. Of course, I know because they don't remember anything. They live in the moment basically. They don't have any record of the past. They're not thinking about the future. So,
Exactly.
yeah, she's always in the moment, like present at every single time of her life. So it's really fascinating. And that point you just mentioned about play, I tend to use it a lot because I like to play. I like to feel like like a child somehow. We have this kind of childlike character within us, but because we are expected to be adults, then we don't use it.
We forget. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't use it in the outside world. We don't use it for business. We don't use it for so many things. Uh, and yeah, it's hard to go back to it, when you're with your child. But that's a very important point there. So what's the third? What's the third one?
What's that?
What's the third tip?
Oh, the third one. So let me just make a point here. What you said was beautiful, because this is conscious parenting is a concept, is a principle kind of way. So, and that's a way of life. That's how children become our awakeners. They become our teachers, because as you said, we forget how to be a child, right? So now if we allow our child to teach us how to access that childhood innocence and play and joyfulness, they become our teachers. Do you see how we shift the perspective, rather than just, oh, how can I get my child to brush his teeth, rather than just having this hierarchical way of living with them? We become equal in soul value. Our soul value are the same, and we become each other's partners, right, to grow and evolve our consciousness, our soul. So that's how we shift our perspective, and we cannot transcend the behavior, transcend the problem. Toothbrushing, getting up in the morning, I don't know, not hitting the sibling. It doesn't become a problem anymore. It becomes an opportunity for us to first of all, dig within, see why am I getting triggers? Because that goes back to the first point. Like when we get triggered, it's our inner child that is getting triggered. Our inner child didn't play enough, wasn't joyful enough, wasn't peaceful enough, was shut down, was punished, was coerced. So now when we get triggered about anything, not only children, about anything, it's because our inner child is hurt. And it's really important to create that pause first, to attend to that inner child, figure out why and understand, discover that it's the wound is within me. The child is not cutting me by not listening to me, but the wound, the cut was already there from 0 to 7 years old, and he's just poking. Now let me attend to that wound. What is it? Is it the wound of being out of control, for example? That's what we usually have, because we felt out of control when we're children. So now when our children don't listen, we feel out of control. Oh, he's not listening to him, not again. So when we create that pause and we attend to our inner child, and we know that I don't want to project my past wound onto this child. Now, if I take care of that, I say, this is not you. It's because the cat who can't bark is just a little baby with little developed, brain. Now, how can I go about it? How can I become that empty cup? I put my hand on my heart, and I said, what's the creative solution? What's the conscious solution? 5 seconds. We just allow for that answer to come up, right? For that answer to come up. Maybe I don't know. I just say, are you out of hugs? For example, if they're throwing a tantrum, are you out of hugs? What's going on, right? So anything that comes through that time will be in a conscious way rather than just an unconscious fear-based reaction, right? So the third, do you have any questions about this?
No, not at all.
Okay, good. So the psychological needs that I wanted to talk about is, one of them was autonomy, as I said. For autonomy, I highly suggest that you use if you want to use any words, again, go cut it down to 10%. But if you want to use any words, rather than just demands and instructions, use 2 alternatives, use choices. Honey, you want to brush your teeth now or in 5 minutes? Something ridiculous, but in 2 choices, so she or he can pick, right? They feel they're in control. They feel they have some sort of authority, autonomy. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
do that. Less ordering, less instruction, and 2 choices as much as you can. So I kind of challenge you, whatever you want them to do, put in 2 words. Blue shirt or green shirt, just anything, so that this will be kind of intertwined in their psyche, that they are in charge, that they are choosing, right?
Yeah.
And the next one is connectedness. Okay, so connectedness is the most important buckets, and that is what is missing in the world, right? Because the root of even addiction is lack of connection. So that's what we are all seeking. I always say we're like these zombies that are walking. We say, see me, connect to me. We're all like that. We want to feel seen, safe, soothed, and secure. These are the 4 S's of secure attachment by Dr. Dan Siegel: safe, seen, soothed, and secure. So these are the connected. There's some things that we need to do on a daily basis, the practical tips that you asked me on a daily basis to fill up this bucket, right? So one of the things is 10-minute one-on-one time with each child. We have to absolutely do it, minimum 10 minutes, especially when they're little, maybe two 10 minutes in the morning and in the evening with each parent, one-on-one, completely devoted, high quality. What do you want to do, honey? It's not like watch something or read a book. No, what do you do, honey? Like it's daddy and, I don't know, Rebecca time, something like that. So you ask and you're devoted, you don't think about anything, you're fully present. That is so important to do that. Another one I highly suggest is snuggle time at night. Go to their bed and scratch their back and smell their hair and kiss them. You're awesome. You're so, just fill them with these words. You're so awesome. You're my angel. I love you so much. Whisper into their ears. Smell their hair. Full on presence, right? Full on presence. We don't do that. We don't have full on presence, not only with anyone, but even with ourselves, except we meditate, of course. But it's so rare that we are in the presence of someone fully without thinking too much, wanting to answer, or really just revel, really just cherish that presence. Wow, this child came through me. Cultivate that kind of thing. And then 20-second hug. After each separation, just hug them for 20 seconds, 20-second hug. Research shows that it produces oxytocin in the body, which is the happy hormone, love hormone. Just keep the 20-second hug. So these are the things that we do for connectedness bucket. And 5-minute laugh time or roughhousing, especially if they're boys, pillow fight and jumping up and down, something with the body, or laughing, that's absolutely important as well. And the next bucket is competence, and that is when you allocate tasks. And this is where kind of people are missing. That's when I said you're on a good time. Try to allocate tasks to her, really meaningful tasks, like putting out the garbage, I don't know, cleaning the baby, putting cream on the baby brother or sister, something meaningful that they feel they're part of the community. And the sooner you do this, the better off you'll be, because if you start really late, it's going to be so hard to teach tasks and you keep asking and they don't do it. And there's actually a formula to teach tasks, because yelling from the kitchen 10,000 times is not going to cut it. You have to have a process for it. I can tell you if you want me to, but there's a process to do that.
Okay, yeah. So the last one now is about feeling seen and feeling heard, basically. Feeling seen, feeling safe, feeling soothed, feeling secure.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's that feeling of being seen is a challenge that we actually go through. All I mean, for me personally, I think I went through that. I didn't feel I was seen for long periods in my own home, and of course it's hard to it's a difficult thing to explain, to your parents. You can't even say it because at the time I didn't have the words to even say it. Like, it was just a feeling, so I couldn't express it in this same kind of concept, that I don't feel heard or I don't feel seen. And I think it's very important, because we tend to overlook it, and because we feel that we're providing what they need, what the children need in terms of maybe education, toys, everything. We feel like we're providing their needs, and that is enough, to see. But there's a difference between actually seeing and actually seeing the soul of the child.
Dr. Shefali always says
every other and all the other things that we think we are providing, because the provisions like buying clothes and buying the best of this and the best of that, yes, they're all good things to do, but I think that feeling seen, that's what really caught my attention. That's a very important aspect. So right from when my child was born, I tried to connect with her by looking into her eyes. And now that she's growing up, I still do that a lot, because sometimes she just wants to stare at you again, and I try to do the stare back, and I just try to make her know that I am there when I am there.
Yes. Dr. Shefali says the kids are always happy with a stick and a stone. So I highly recommend, do not buy those toys. Those toys, like, save your money. Seriously.
No, she doesn't even play with any toys. I'm not saying for me, I'm just saying in general.
Yes, exactly. No, I'm not telling you, but just because
I already noticed that that she doesn't play with toys at all. We tried buying them already, and they are all over here, but she doesn't touch any of them. She just plays with maybe the bags and just strange things in the house. Those are her toys. She doesn't care about any other thing. Like, if you buy anything, she doesn't want it. She just plays with spoon and maybe the pen. Like she plays with my books, especially. She comes to my book whenever and picks books there, and plays around with them. That's what she uses as a toy.
Yes, exactly. Keep it that way. Keep it that way, because I fell into this trap because I didn't have many toys as a child, and I thought that was that's a form of love. So I bought so many toys for them. I didn't know these things, right? And it was not a good choice. It's just, again, the less the better. They become creative. It's okay if they're bored. That's another thing. We're so worried about their boredom. It's okay. We have to create conditions, of course, go out, bike, hike, but spend time with them again. But if they're bored, they become, boredom is the mother of invention. So that's another thing. So yes, feelings of seeing. Another thing that I suggest is a 1 second, just loving stare. Just when you see them, just look into their eyes, because we don't see. Literally, we don't use our five senses attentively. We are we are always mind wandering. That's why we are never paying attention to our experiences. Right? I read this book, Joy of Wisdom, written by this monk 10 years ago. It was like the first time I saw a tree. Like, it's like I never saw a tree. Like, wow, look at this tree. So we have to practice that with our children. We have to, wow. Sometimes, wow, I still do. He came through me, she came through me. Wow. That's a miracle. We take it for granted, right? Because it's so big of a miracle that we just like life is a miracle, but we take it for granted. That's why I say every morning just practice gratitude. Say a couple of things, put your hands here, say I'm grateful for this, and really feel grateful for your right hand, for example. So we have to cultivate these kind of interactions on a moment-to-moment basis, and the more we do this, the more the child feels seen and connected. It feels like I matter. So it's when we are children, we suppress our bad memories, but usually they're so traumatic that children think that they don't deserve to live. It's very traumatic. So we have to be super careful, especially when they're little. I highly suggest up until 14 months, do not even allow for the child to cry 1 second. Up until 14 months, pay attention to them right away. After that, it's okay. It depends, like what's going on. Connect to your heart, empty your cup. But at all times, never abandon them. Be around them, create the space for them, make them feel safe. And there are so many parenting styles and books out there that I'm like, oh my God, that's why the world in this misery, because this is the main human need. Feelings of being seen and accepted and unconditionally loved. And we never got them as a child, and we're not giving. And when we're adult, you brought up your parent. When we are adults, we have to just release our parents. They're done. We just forgive them. I don't like the word forgive. We accept them, and they did their best. They did their best, and that's all they could do. And so we just release them. So if, I know people go to therapy, and after many, many years, they just hate their parents even more. I say, okay, everything was your parents. Just release them. They did their best. Even if they did horrible things, they did their best. You can't expect the cat to bark. That was their programming, right? We're all robots. That was their robotic behavior. So you just release them, and we give those feelings of seen and heard and accepted and loved and unconditionally approved to ourselves. So we are responsible for that. I always say to my couple clients, none of you expects the other person to fill those holes. You are responsible. We individually are responsible to fill those holes and making ourselves feel seen and accepted and loved and approved. And then as a result, we have two whole humans in a relationship. Wow, what a great team. So if there are anything needs, like any remainders, 1 or 2, 3 needs, then we communicate. What can you do to make this better even? But we don't expect anyone to fill those holes. So that's why I say when it comes to children, when we get triggered, just know it is your inner child. It is from your past. Pause, do your work, whatever you do. One of the really powerful techniques, it's a Hawaiian technique I always suggest, called Ho'oponopono. Some of the audience might know. Ho'oponopono is just repeating, thank you, I love you, please forgive me, I'm sorry. Just repeating these 4 sentences to your inner child. I love you, thank you, I'm sorry you had to go through this, I'm sorry you're going through it, I'm here for you. So thank you, I love you, please forgive me, I'm sorry. You keep repeating, but know that it's not the kid. The wound has been there from early childhood, 0 to 7. So let me just attend 5-10 minutes. If it's not a safety issue, even separate yourself physically, right? That's one of the biggest mistakes. We just put ourselves there. We try to argue ourselves out of something, lecture. Forget it, because here's the fight or flight system, and here's the smart brain. When we get triggered, we flip the lid, and what is actually exposed is only the fight or flight, and the smart brain is bye-bye. That's why I say just separate yourself 5 minutes, 10 minutes, Go around the block, go meditate, go take a shower, put your hands on your heart. And I know it's really difficult with little kids, but at least it would be easier for us when they're little. Oh my God, their brain is so underdeveloped. I'm gonna release expectation. But when they're teenagers, you think, oh, they know, they're doing it on purpose. None of this is on purpose. They do what they do is because they can't do any other thing. That's all. They're cats who can't bark. That's it.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for your time. I think you've gone through the three tips that you have. Yeah, and they're really very empowering. I just have one question. Well, maybe next time when we discuss next time we'll talk about it, because it seems like these things require, like, how would I put it? It requires time on our part and effort. So let's say you have two working parents that have to work long hours or something, and your child or whatever has to go to nursery or something. The dynamics might not be the same, right? Like if you have two working, let's say you have two working parents, not one is not at home or something, or or let's say single parents doing it. How would I put it? This practice seems to require some kind of time. I don't know if I'm right or wrong.
Okay, so here's the thing. Parenting is the toughest thing in the world. No one put a knife in our neck, say, yeah, I should have a child. We decided to have a child. Once we have a child, we should accept, I'm sorry again to be blunt, but we are raising adults. We are forming the next generation of humankind. This is not an easy thing to do. We did it, no one forced us. We chose to have children, and we have to accept that this is hard, this is time consuming, and the most important thing, the toughest priority should be the toughest priority. And of course, we have to work and do all those things, but at least have this awareness that I'm doing this tremendous job and it matters. So part of the struggle that I see with parents is that and myself as well, it's just we have these children and we want everything else to be perfect and nothing, it's not going to happen. We have to accept the messy house. We have to accept some tiredness and fatigue, especially at the beginning. It's tough. For example, your situation is the toughest things, and imagine, for example, a single mom. Oh my gosh. But again, her soul, that's my spiritual belief, that her soul required this, wanted this, whatever it is, but she chose. No one forced her, right? So we have to accept this. We have to accept this. This is tough, and we have to do our best. At least the times that we are done. 10 minutes, not a big thing. 10 minutes one-on-one, it's not that time consuming. So have an alarm, but 10 minutes fully devoted. Don't think about work, right? Or 5 minutes snuggle time. It's not, that's just 20 minutes. So 5 minutes snuggle time, 10 minutes during the time, 5 minute laugh time, and then just 1 second 20-second hugs. It's not too big, but think of it as you're depositing into their bank account. Because if we don't do these things, don't give them choices, don't give them connection time, then their bank account is empty. And when we want them to do something, they're gonna strike back. They're gonna have a power struggle. They're not going to cooperate. That's as simple as that. And then later, we're going to get into many more problems. They're going to get to depression. We're going to get to addiction problems. We're going to get, they're going to join a cult. We don't want that. We don't. So it's just so amazing to me that when people, before Me Too, we couldn't associate childhood with adulthood. Like what happens to an adult when something is going on in adulthood? It doesn't come out of the air. It comes from childhood. It's a tremendously important task that we have as parents, and we have to accept it. That is difficult. It's not easy.
Yeah. Okay. So the last takeaway I think I have here is that the parents need to be mindful. The parents themselves need to be aware. Yeah. So awareness has been a very key aspect of my own growth. Just being aware. It doesn't mean that you're perfect or anything, but now I'm aware of what I'm doing. I'm aware of when I'm thinking negatively. I'm aware of a lot of things. that I wasn't aware of before. I was just doing them mindlessly before. So it makes it easier to come back to yourself, like you said. Once you know, like once you feel it and you become aware, oh, this is what's happening now, then I can actually come back, and release it. So thanks for joining in today. Hopefully, maybe we could you could hop in again another day for some more discussion. But thanks for your insights. Can you tell the audience where they can find you online in case they need your help? Because you do a lot of coaching, um, corporate coaching, coaching in schools, for private individuals and groups too.
Sure, yes. So they can find me at drarayeh.com. My handles are Dr. Arayeh everywhere, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and everywhere. But I also have a parent support group that is called Parent from Love. So if they just put in search box Parent from Love, they can just ask to join. And over there, I go live every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific time. And hopefully you can join me. I know that's really late for you, but we can have another time for you. You can join and ask your questions. So I have guests every week. So they can join me there, and they can watch it's free. They can watch the videos. And if anyone wants to work with me, they can go to drarayeh.com, and the top free 30-minute consultation, they can make their appointment, and I'll be there to help you.
All right, I'll post the link in the comment section. Once again, thanks for joining, and
welcome.
See you again. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, I stopped the live stream.
Okay. Good.
All right, I'll see you later now. Bye.
Bye-bye. See you.